So recently there's been this idea that's been circulating a lot recently online, which is this idea of being a chosen one. Now, as far as I can tell, this idea has gone through several different iterations over time. It's really an idea that's as old as time as well. But in the context of social media and talking about it online, there's been several creators and influencers who are essentially made and built from this topic alone and later praised for their courageous ideology of going about this information and helping people through the brave spiritual journey and realizing themselves and how they're also a chosen one and things of that nature. And so I guess I wanted to make this video to illustrate some more of my ideas about this and perhaps go into the history of my own experience with these ideas, where I sit with it now, and what I think of some of the influencers who talk about these things, especially given my rich history of this idea. And I think that you'll probably only ever find this type of information, this perspective that you'll see in this video from someone who's actually genuinely and ironically a chosen one, and not just superficial, regular, chosen one people that are kind of on the internet. To actually talk about and speak of these things in this particular view, I think actually illustrates the first quality of actually being chosen. So I guess we'll start with that. How to know that you're a chosen one. Well, the first way that you would know is that you no longer identify with being a chosen one, right? I mean, it's kind of ironic in the sense that, all right, it's just kind of playful, it's fun, what's it really mean? But really, when you start to get to the construction of yourself and who you are as an energy source and consciousness, you are not what you are at all. I mean, we're kind of just a mirage, even to our own selves, right? We always talk about how reality is kind of an endless hall of mirrors. Consciousness is this projection, and we're animated into this screen of reality. And so we're all kind of just like pixels floating around. I mean, the first understanding that you would have to come to when you are genuinely a chosen one is that the nature of reality is so far beyond your capacity to understand in your regular human view that it can't possibly be what you actually think it is. It's probably that and more times 10, and probably even times 100 or more. And so the first trait essentially of being a chosen one is understanding that you really don't understand what's going on here. And there's this idea of how when you're a chosen one, that you want to illustrate to the world that you have this knowledge, that you know where it came from, and you know the nature of reality, and you have an answer for everything. But when you really get back to the core basics of yourself and your identity and where you kind of come from, a lot of what you kind of built out your world to be is what you've probably read on the internet or read in books or watched videos of other people talking about this idea. And so your whole awareness is essentially a culmination of these topics all combobulated together, and that makes your unique perspective and view. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have knowledge at that real level, because knowledge at the real level will always come from the self-experience. And so that's the first way that you would know that you're actually genuinely a chosen one, is that you no longer identify with this idea of being a chosen one, because it's actually limiting in your form, especially the more you go down life. To view yourself in this way actually can start to limit you in a box of your own self-perception. And the more you grow, and especially the more that you want to grow, your soul wants you to grow, you actually will identify less and less with yourself as a human form. Now, as far as I can tell, then the second step naturally then would be, well, you don't want to be a chosen one in the sense that you don't want to identify with it. So what exactly do you want to identify with? And I think that that's how you start to understand the next step of this idea, which is, there's these people that all they want to do is they want to follow their desires. You want to follow in the world of going with your bliss. You want to follow where pleasure is. You want to follow, what your passion is, where you want to go, things like that. And that's how you know that you're on the right path, if you just follow what feels good. Well, a second quality of being a chosen one, I would say, is that you actually don't really have any inner sense of what is good or bad in at least the most basic forms, because it all kind of feels the same, right? Everything sort of feels the same in sense of how pleasure is all right, pain is all right, having a challenge is all right. Everything is all right because you don't have an abrasiveness to reality that kind of keeps you from preventing you from living it. And so oftentimes you'll find in chosen people, they want to only see the good things in life, or they only want to see, what new spiritual capability can they unlock within themselves, or things of this nature. when in fact to genuinely be a spiritual person, I think it's all about embracing the entire spectrum of the reality and how it's unfolding to you, because there's always something to learn. And so I guess a second key identifiable trait then is, what exactly do you want to identify with, which is, well, your experience right now. It's not about you. It's not necessarily about, what this information means to you. It's about the lessons in the journey of what it is now and what that means to perhaps even something even more deeply mysterious than you and what you think you are. You don't really know what you are. Reality is kind of like a screen in that sense, or in this pixelated format of just moving images. And when you really get down to the nature of reality, at that level, it's really that way. And, what can you really say about that? I mean, you have no idea. And so typically in the world of being a chosen one, these people associate a lot of their energy or their God-given capabilities as things that were uniquely given to them because they have a self-identity, because they want to appear as special, and then probably, sell you a course or sell you their ideas to get you to believe more that they are what they say they are. And so that's how you would know that you're actually a chosen one, which is you no longer identify with your human form in that sense. And you don't necessarily need to identify with something that's greater than you are. You're just perfectly okay with whatever the experience is now, which naturally leads you to that general basic neutrality about the nature of things and not necessarily want to sway it any other way. Now, the third key identifiable trait that I would say in a chosen one, which is someone who's actually very flexible and adaptable to change, right? You are able to change almost like instantaneously. Change a belief, change a thought. Everything is just kind of a thought form when you think about it, and you're just pulling these strings into you and creating templates and formats for configuring your mental world, your spiritual world, your energetic world. They're all templates of just arrangements that we start to get comfortable with. So when you're a chosen one, genuinely, I would assume that you have this capacity to change almost instantaneously. You can just transfigurate any form, identify the pieces within you which are maybe causing discomfort or no longer resonate with the next level that you're about to go, and you're able to just kind of throw those things away and embrace the new whatever it is. And so that would be just kind of a short and simple third, I guess, identifiable trait that I would say in a chosen one. You're able to identify and embrace whatever it is that you need to change into and then make the change, right? It kind of goes into that second step of not having an abrasive attitude towards reality, or something didn't go your way and so now you're upset or mad about it because you don't have a self-identity to attach it to. You kind of see how it starts to kind of branch off into its own set of different ideas, and I think it does kind of all harmoniously work together in that way. Now, the fourth identifiable trait I would say in a chosen one, and we talked about how it's someone who actually doesn't resonate with being a chosen one. You no longer identify so much with the human self-identification format. You can change pretty much on a dime, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You can adapt to change and recognize truth. And I guess that would probably be the fourth identifiable trait, which is that you're actually able to see the truth of the reality completely as it is, and not just in the way that you want it to be, which naturally goes into the idea of being flexible to change. I mean, many times we often feel we're so right about this idea, but when it actually comes down to it, almost if you could have a measuring or a grading mechanism to identify what actually the real reality is. Maybe we're wrong about a whole host of ideas, and so how then can you change to what is right or the correct layout of information? And so being a chosen one, I guess, is all about actually being able to see the truth of the reality, regardless of what it is, right? Having that natural detachment to your self-identity that, otherwise most people will get caught up in, that prevents them from seeing the truth. And I guess that's kind of the more basic layout of this idea. I mean, there's probably far more ideas that we can talk about to make it even more scalar, more, intense, more, down to the nitty-gritty detail of what it is. But I'd say the last and final tip, the last reason that you would know with 100% certainty that you're a chosen one, is if you watched all the way to the end of this video and you clicked like and subscribe and you joined our Discord. Because if you didn't do that, if that doesn't immediately pique your interest as something that I should do, if that doesn't resonate with you in the moment to do that, I'll be honest with you, there's no way you're a chosen one.